you
Yeah, we
had.
work in one-on-one with Leo. And that's why I keep doing that. That's how we talk to him in class. Leo this, Leo that. We used to go out Saturdays after the class. We used to go down to Chinatown and eat in the restaurants down there. And it was a family. You know, I remember, I used to go to Leo's house. I can't. My son's old enough. I can get away with saying this. When New York City school system is screwed up. So if you were allowed 5 latenesses, but you were allowed 15 absences per semester. So if I got to school late, I just turned around. It was better for me to go over to Leo's house. He'd like open the door in the morning. There was, hanging out on his doorstep. Can I come train with you today? Oh, okay, come on in. You know. Um, so it was just I'd hang out at his house. His kids call me Uncle Billy. His wife would make me, things to eat. He even cooked. There's adobo dish. He would make chicken adobo the way I liked it with more ginger in it. Just they would make extra sauce. I like sauce. With family. I go to his house after class. We'd hang out, and after dinner, watch TV, and then away from the bird. That was good dinner. And then I'd ask him questions about the literature. Could you show me this? Could you show me that? It was you know somewhere between my favorite older brother and my father. A second father kind of figure. I remember my dad got mad at me. It was over his house so much, Leo's house so much. Um, so it's a really different environment. Um, and I don't know, it was just a different time period. It was the 70s, it was, different time period in general.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I just
Anyway, should we answer more direct questions from the guys? We got them here. Guys, give me a question.
sure, if any still have them. I do want
Everyone's saying sounding like you're either like the Wizard of Oz from behind the curtain or God in
oh
the Ten
boy,
Commandments scene.
the Ten Commandments. Let me just I can lower down if I'm coming off. Jeez, he's still like,
Okay,
yeah,
Carl
oh
asked
my,
me, I'm going to write a book about my kitty. You know, uh, I would say the blog posts, articles I'm writing are my book if you want to read text, but it's a physical martial art. I think you're better off. Um, the sound is. I'm sorry, I'm going to read the question on the sound. You're better off watching videos to learn about it, and then anything that needs to be explained in text would be on the blog articles. So I am writing a book. I'm just writing it one piece at a time in the blog articles. Um, I mean, if you want to hear history like this would be like the beginning of a book. But I think it's better to do it here in live questions, right? So, all right. Paul thinks it might be feedback from a microphone. Paul, do you think it's my mic that's causing the problem? Uh,
can you just go and plug in? You try?
yeah, let me. My son gave me a very nice professional microphone, but that might be what's causing the problem because we did not have this yesterday. Okay. Can you still hear me, Dean?
I can still hear you.
I heard you without echo. Once again, high tech causes a problem. Sorry, guys. Okay. Uh, okay, Paulo, you asked about who is the heir. What does it say? Heir to the PTI. Oh, who is the heir to the PTI system? We don't do heirs, in PTI, heirs. How do you pronounce that? If you're not gavada, who's going to inherit the system? It's not, Leo for many years would cooperate tertia, the Graduate School of Martial Arts, University of Martial Arts. And I took that to heart when I started PTI. I really wanted to make an organization that would survive the founders. So basically, it's like I envision it like graduating from medical school. You go through medical school, you graduate, get the diploma, you're now a doctor. Then you go out in the real world and you show the real world how well you can apply what you've learned. So that's the thing, same thing in PTI. You graduate the course as a Matas Naguro, master instructor. And then things after that are ranks that recognize your time in the system and what your contributions back to the system. But it's up to the guys who graduate to prove themselves in the free marketplace of ideas of, what do they know? So, I'm a Republican, guys. I believe in the free market. This is supposed to be, you get the information in school, then you go out and you prove what you can do with it. I'm providing them with the tools. I'm not holding their hand while they saw the board, if you want to use a carpentry analogy. Does that kind of answer the question? Okay, Ken asked how were the fiber attacks formed in PTI? So the first time Leo sent me out on a seminar by myself, it was November of 1979. I just turned 19 years old. Sent me to a school in California, Fred Bandelon's Kajacampo School in San Jose, California. They had him in there in June for a seminar. They wanted him back in November. He couldn't go. He sent me. I was working at the mailroom in a big accounting firm, a job I got out of high school. Wasn't a job I needed to stay with, and I wanted to be a martial art teacher, purely inertia. So quit my job, went out there. But I was asking them, what do I teach out there? Because I think they wanted me for an extended period, not just a one weekend seminar. And he said, just start with 5 attacks, And anytime I did a seminar, from the 80s on, from that point on throughout the 80s, I was kind of Leo's follow-up man on seminars. They couldn't get him to come in. He would send me as a backup guy, the next guy. I'd always start with 5 attacks. But of course, the 5 attacks from the 64 attack system is very limited. So by 1990, I think it was the first time I really started to think of, all right, I need to teach people a little differently. The classic way Leo learned, and the way he would teach kids in the Philippines, you'd start Leo's original program that his grandfather told him was, start the boy in there, 7 years old, have him do a year of footwork, and then start him with abecedario, do a year of the abecedario, 1 set per month, right? But he couldn't do that in the United States of that A through Z on each weapon. But if you think about it, that's the right way to teach a kid who's going to be, that's his homework assignment. He's there an hour or 2 a day training. There's no grandpa, I don't want to do this, right? But if you get a guy who's a police officer with his nightstick, is a common tool back in when I started as an officer, or someone who is going to is worried about empty hand, getting attacked by a guy with a knife. You can't sit him, doing a year of footwork. You can't sit him up against a tree, hitting it, for a year, 144 strikes. So I said, okay, how do I go and congest it down to something really easy to get combat ability quickly? So I had noticed traveling around teaching at different schools, seeing different arts, that most weapon-based arts around the world will start with 4 diagonal cuts, usually in that angle, that sequence. The 4 hand diagonal down is the 1 and the 2, 3, right? And then a 5 is a thrust, different thrust, different art, depending on the weapon used on art. But everyone had these 4 diagonals and a thrust as their basic. So I said, okay, let me go and put as much of advanced theory in that over that, superimpose that template of those 4 angles. The 5th thing was simply kind of like an algebraic X. It was what is not a diagonal equals X. That's the 5th attack. Okay. So the other thing, the guys who've had contradas, solo contradas, in the church, will see there's a freaking lot of contradas in the 5 attack system. Because I wanted something that you weren't very committed. You're doing a lot of fight. The beginning of a fight, a lot of jabs. If you know the fight is coming, you want to jab and get some distance and assess what's going on, right? So The first drill Leo had us do in Contratus was, okay, I want you to take the stick, put it on your right shoulder, do the first set of 12 attacks, but they have to start and end at the right shoulder. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's okay, now do 12 from the left shoulder. Bang, 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 bang. Then he started to give us the drills for Contratus. And what he's trying to get across is you should be able to hit to any target from any point of origin chamber with your weapon. No matter where your weapon is chambered, maybe I should have a bigger stick up here. But no matter where your weapon, is chambered, this shoulder or this shoulder, the guy should not be able to guess you're going to counterattack with a backhand if you have it on the left side. Shouldn't guess a forehand if you have it on the right side, right? So that was really the kind of the beginning concept you needed to get in Contratus. So I dumped a lot of that into the 5-attack subsystem. There's some things from Recontras, a couple of things here and there. There's some things from the disarming. So I kind of, my original idea was put a sample taste of all the advanced theories on top of those 4 basic strikes that all weapon-based martial arts have. And that's how 5-attack subsystem came about. Next question. Is there mono pick tertia more open fist parliament than most other? Okay, hold on. Okay, Jameer is asking, is the mono pick tertia much more open hammer fist and palm oriented than most other FMA systems? That presupposes I know what other FMA systems empty hand looks like in depth. I don't. I would say the guys who, yeah, and Jamil asked, very few forward knuckle strikes. Yes, very few. There are in there, but they're few and far between. And I've even modified some of the targets on those after the AIDS epidemic hit, and we worried about bloodborne pathogens getting transferred. But I posted a very interesting, what I found interesting, video about a British guy who does bare knuckle boxing, and he shows the hitting style of the bare knuckle fighters from early 20th century. And they're punching with the same kind of fist structure that I was taught in the Petit de Mano, the Obsidian de Mano. And the Wing Chun guys are saying, hey, we do that in Wing Chun. And all these different martial arts in that video were saying, hey, we do that way too, because they're bare-handed based punching, right? They weren't based with having gloves on. And the things you learn very quickly when you get a proper hand wrap and gloves on, you can hit a lot harder when your hand is wrapped than you can when you don't have hands wrapped, especially on hard targets like a cranium. So, like one of the things that I changed, our downward, like our cross, was meant to hit the jaw, dropping down to the chin to try to snap the head forward. But I was really, really, really worried about getting hit on the teeth, hitting the teeth and getting, blood-to-blood transfer of broken teeth. I've even seen guys or heard reports of guys getting their knuckle tendons severed by broken teeth from doing that, from hitting a guy in the mouth. So, so some things I did modify, like the target on our cross in the Obsidian de Mano is the upper sternum rather than the jaw. And really it was kind of, you would hit the sternum on the, hit the jaw first and bring it to the sternum, was how I learned it. But I was worried about the bloodborne pathogens, so I modified it going direct to the sternum. So some things I changed, and that I should mention now because I'm sure the question will come up. Well, you changed stuff that Leo told you. Leo told me many times after I got the system that I could change anything I want. So when I got Tuhon, I asked him about changing. Now this is pretty small potatoes, but it's kind of indicative of how things went afterwards. I wanted to change, I think, number 1 and 2, the sequence of those in the first set of Recontras. Usually in Church Advanced Material, the number 1 is kind of a taste and a introduction to the rest of the system. So it's very compact, shows you what the rest of that set, should say, is going to be like. And for some reason, might just been Leo that day, whatnot, 2 was more complex than 1. So I wanted to switch it after I taught it a while, I thought, it makes more sense to go that way. And I asked Leo, I said, okay, if I do this, he said, of course, you're doing that. You can do anything you want. And there was a few times in the system where, I made changes just because it was easier to teach, or things like I'm worried about bloodborne pathogens. Or, I saw Leo in the 70s in person change things. For instance, he would come in on one of the drills in ice pick grip versus hammer grip on knife and go into the belly and rip it. And, we started off like that, and he changed it, realizing, you know what, with a little 4-inch knife that these guys in New York could legally carry, and the way Americans were built, 4 inches in the belly is not going to drop the guy. You might get a lot of, especially wintertime, you may not get through as deep as you need to disable the guy right now before he gets a stab in on you. So we started to drop it down lower into the quadricep to get it to, disable the guy's footwork, right? Or he would go and do a backstab, come around the guy quickly and try to get a kidney or spine shot. So I saw Leo do changes based on, the people he was teaching. He told us he made changes based on the people he was teaching. He couldn't sit for a year of footwork, a year of obstedario, do the whole single stick and sword system before he went to AA. Couldn't do that with the people he's teaching. So you have to be flexible, guys. It's not written in stone. This is not a religion. The people who teach it are not gods. It's your people teaching things that are supposed to help other people. So you got to be flexible. There's lots of things I teach law enforcement that I don't have time to teach. I don't have time to teach law enforcement when I teach regular people who come in and want to learn the whole system. I can't teach a short law enforcement course the same way I teach a short military course. Different rule sets, very different rule sets. Even within those groups, I was teaching a group of sky marshals. There are things you cannot do with footwork that you really would like to do if you're in a narrow airplane corridor. You have to. It's like medicine. You're a doctor. You went through medical school. You're now declared a doctor. But now, is this patient with this new disease you're not used to? How do you treat this disease? His disease is how to survive a fight in his environment with the tools available to that person in the time you have to work with that person. So you have to be flexible, guys. Don't be a stiff head. And I say that as someone who probably had the stiffest head of any pediatrician guy out there when I was young. I was the most fanatic of fanatical people when I was young. So, speaking from someone who went in and out from the other side of that, don't be that way anymore. Okay. Anyway, so any other questions? Let's see what new question, guys. Okay. Okay, Paul's saying something cool about the Lintuak system. I'm looking for specific questions. Dean, if you think of anything that we covered yesterday that the guys might like to hear today, I'm still looking for questions. Oh, Chris Clark asked in your pediatrician path, have you ever introduced other styles in the system? No, I when I teach, the rare times I teach a Salat class, I tell everyone it's Salat. This is what we're teaching. Very often when I'm teaching a pediatrician empty hand class and something looks like Salat, or I learn something in Salat that looks like it, I'll say, okay, now here's what I learned from Eddie Joffrey, my Salat teacher, that looks like this. And I'll say, look, this is how pediatrician does it. Look how the Salat I learned did it. And notice how the difference of philosophies are. And it's a good illustrative point to show the difference in philosophies. Dean, did I lose your... Say something, Dean. Yeah, I can't hear you, Dean. Okay, guys, I'm going to have to go on your questions. Experience with Eddie Joffrey from Eric. We used to call him Crazy Eddie. He used to go on the sub. He's not a big guy. He's relatively short. He was relatively short. He passed away several years ago. Small guy, but incredibly fast. Hard hands like a brick. And yeah, other guys complaining he has no sound. You guys can still hear me, right? I'm going to go on until I hear otherwise. He used to go and troll the subways in his three-piece suit with a $20 bill sticking out of his vest pocket and pretend to be asleep. No one ever mugged him, you know? He was, as crazy as Leo was, and Leo did some really off-the-wall things, everyone called Eddie Crazy Eddie. Okay, who are some PT? Paul asked, who are some PTI fighters you want to put a target on? I don't want to target anybody. They're my friends. Give me an easier to answer question, guys. That's more direct. I turned 60 this year. I don't need allegories. I need direct ABC questions, guys. What do we got here? Looking around. All right. So Leo was very much an opponent of us training and other things. When he was in college, he learned some style of karate. I want to say Muay. It was a Korean karate. It wasn't Taekwondo, though. And he learned judo in college. When he was traveling around after college, doing different jobs here and there, he learned a style of salat from Malaysia called Mastika Quintan. And whenever he and Eddie Joffrey they did this really kind of interesting slow motion sparring. It looked very much like sparring in the circle from Bagua. And one of the styles Eddie had, the four-stepping, came from, he said, a Chinese martial art that did like this, and I found it later, probably Bagua. Yes, Carl, I was in the Philippines in 1984 for a short time. So anyway, Leo had a lot of experience under his belt. So when he met Eddie, 77, 78, something like that, I think 78, he brought Eddie in and had Eddie cross-train us in the salat he had. There was a period at the same time where Leo had us go to cross-train with a salat guy, from a Kuntao guy, who learned from the southern Philippines. He was another Visayan, I think. His name was Edwin Renonos. And of that salat style. And I go into that in my blog and some details on those things, guys. Okay, so Julius asked a question of Nair Babao. Say hi to Nair for me. What the fellow Pinoy FMA practitioners Leo? So I remember Matt Marinas was a friend of Leo's who had his own system, and Leo liked a lot, was a nice guy. Butch Chenza had some training before he met Leo. He used to do the demos with Leo when we would go out and do a demo when the Sayaks and Achenzas were still with Leo. Leo would work with Butch a lot. That was probably the first year before Tom had enough under his belt to get Tisha. Because once Tom got into it, then Tom was Leo's guy for demo work all the time. So anyway, and then you had a question. Okay, Gilliman Williams from Arkansas. When are you going to do a video of all the control? I got everything on video. It's just you have to, it's review videos. So what I do, guys, my advanced videos are shot as review videos for purposes of people to review them for testing. Because like the hardest thing for me to remember was the sequencing of a set. Usually I can get 1 in 12 fine, but there was, several in the middle that I would forget the sequence, right? So I made the videos with the idea of these are people who have been through a seminar or classes better, long-term classes better, but even a seminar, hands to hand, hands-on, they've seen what to do from a teacher directly, and I've been able to make corrections on them directly. Move your hand here, move your foot there, right? So that what the video is for is usually at a seminar, I will take, a minute or two after I teach something and the guys work it back and forth and I rub off all the rough edges. Everyone has it. I'll go and film that. And I'll say, okay, guys, let's look at this again. This is one, this is two, blah, blah, blah. Here's a technique for number one, right? And then I'll go back to teaching. So that little hour video came from a weekend course of a lot of times 16 hours over the course of a weekend, especially in the 90s. And that was for them to review for testing purposes. It wasn't designed to learn cold from without seeing the technique hands-on, face-to-face from instructor. So everything that's in the system is on video already. It's just we don't, it's not going to help you. I like guys. Oh, why don't you just sell it? I'm being honest with you. It's not going to help you. You're not going to learn the technique that way. You're going to be able to review it if you already have it, but you're not going to be able to learn it cold from the advanced videos and not built like that. Okay. Steve Sampillo was a name I remember. Marinius, yes. Ted Luca guy. Near Babao. Yeah, those are guys. Some of them are West Coast, and we only saw them when Leo went out West Coast. Near Babao I met when we moved to Texas in '82. Near Rodica, I know that name. I'm sorry if I can't remember details. I apologize. I got this gray hair. This is real gray hair. It's not fake gray hair. Do I still have contact with Steve Sampilio? I don't believe so. He might be on my Facebook friends list. And I'm sorry, guys, if I don't see someone frequently, I'm first off, I'm bad with names. Second, I don't. If you asked me what I had last Wednesday for dinner, I couldn't tell you. So my memory's not that great to begin with, and now I'm older, so it's really not great. All right, do we have a Picatercia question, guys? Come on, real good Picatercia question. Dean, can you think of something? Oh, okay. I'm not getting Dean.
Here. I don't want to have it now.
Okay, fast stick work. Yes, I see the video.
A lot of it is a left-hand.
That is Oliver Nichols in Germany. He and Ralph Beckman ran the Kepelgon School. Really cool martial art university, really, in Hanover, Germany. And
go slow. Let me show you. It's hard to go fast and not whack each other.
Ollie went and left the school to become a public school teacher. When he got married, he had kids, he wanted, a regular job with benefits. So he came to after not seeing him for a few years, and I told him, slow down and just show you the drill that we were doing. And I think, Ollie being Ollie, wanted to test me a little bit, and he came on a little too fast. I'm trying to say, I'm trying not to hit you, but I'm not perfect. I might mess up. And so he came in a little fast. So honestly, I'm trying not to hit him, but he's not to hit him hard. But I keep saying slow down to him. Okay, Jameer asked if I see other people doing signature PKK Picatercia techniques being incorporated into other systems. It's hard for me to know. Leo would always tell us the story that his grandfather and his great uncles, and there were either 4 or 5 of them, would go in the 1920s when they were young men and travel around to other parts of Visayas, other parts of Negros, and either train with other people or spar with other people and come back and say, hey, these guys have this cool technique. Here's the thing that's a big secret about Picatercia, guys. This is our secret weapon, our secret sauce. He said the grandfather and the brothers did not try to preserve the art they got from their father. They deliberately tried to destroy it. And if you know anything about, Filipino culture, most Asian cultures in general, and actually most cultures around the world, if you go far enough back, there was a lot of respect for anything old. If it came from your father, it was better than anything you could do. This is going back as far as the Greek mythology, where the reason Achilles was born of a female, of a half god, half human, was because it was prophesied whoever married that goddess, had children with her, the son would be better than the father. The gods couldn't let that happen, so they made her marry a human. So anyway, so they would go and travel around to different areas, bring it back, put it against the existing pediatric technique that solved that problem or addressed that issue, and whichever was better, that became part of the official system from there on in. If it was an existing pediatric technique, it was kept. If the other technique was better, the existing technique was thrown out, and the new technique replaced it. So, that's why pediatricians are so physically big, I think, because they have this just trying to solve all these different problems with input from all these other systems. So I don't know if Leo said that the pediatrician started in 1897. Filipinos remember that's the year that they had the rebellion against Spain. So everyone got together and was working together against a common enemy. I'm sure a lot of technique got cross-pollinated back and forth before. If you go to HEMA Philippines, the Facebook group HEMA Philippines, they do some excellent work how much the structure of Philippine martial arts is based on Spanish martial arts because the Spanish never had enough soldiers in the Philippines to conquer the country. What they would do is conquer one area with help. Let's say they go to Island B. Hey, Island B, we're going to go and attack you guys in Island A. Come with us. We'll set you up in the port. You'll be our soldiers and control the port. We'll pay you and you'll control it. So they went from island to island doing that, and that's how they got control of the majority of the Philippines. So there was going to be, like you've seen Donna Santo and other people talk about, a lot of commonality in certain parts of the Philippines, like the Visayas, which I believe, you Filipinos correct me if I'm wrong, the Spanish had the strongest influence over. The Philippine martial arts kind of looks the same or looks similar. Like I know in Dulce Paris, I believe, they do something similar, a break-in, break-out drill, but it might be called a box drill. Their version has a 4-beat entry, our version has a 3-beat entry, but it's very similar looking. It's a little, theirs is more largo, ours is more corto, but you could see it came from a common root. So there's a lot of things in there that came from that big stock pot back in 1897, and then another whole bunch of ingredients got thrown in the 1920s, I believe it was, when Leo's great-grandfather and great-uncles were traveling around and putting things in the system. Okay.
Tuhon, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, I went out, but it looks like echo. What is going on? Here, let me put these back in and just see.
Okay. Brian Rodriguez said, Bill, do you ever consider being a dog brother? No, I grew up with the stick being a replacement sword. And when I was a kid, that was what I was interested in, empty hand and knife. Just did stick work as because Leo said you got to do it. If you wanted the carrot, you got to take the stick, right? Plus the armor we used back then was just so freaking heavy. The fence, the kendo headgear with those bars ruined my peripheral vision. Couldn't see well. My sense of distancing was all off. Those big heavy jackets we wore in tournaments, we didn't wear those sparring among ourselves. But at tournaments, those things I hated those things. Back around 1980, Tom invited me to school. We used to spar there, preparing for the Salat tournaments, and then we did sparring on knife. And the knife was just a cut-off piece of rattan. I love that because Tom was just in a defensive vest. and I could move, and my sense of distancing and everything was cool. And I was skinny like this when I started, guys. I mean, if you turn me sideways, I look like a zipper, just a skinny bone with this big nose sticking out, um, skinny, bony kid. So I didn't have strength among the old. Everyone else was older than me, had more martial arts experience. So I couldn't get in there and duke it out close quarters. But I was pretty fast. I guess because I was lean, I just did a lot of reps of things. So my advantage was to have speed. So I could move my rattan as fast as I could move a machete. So I wanted to treat that like a machete. But what I would see at tournaments a lot was guys just wading in, ignoring strikes till they get close and just hammer each other, and whoever was bigger and stronger won. So I was not a big fan of that, honestly. And I had no grappling skills. And when you're in close, or no, not grappling skills, I had no grappling experience to the depth of a lot of these other guys had. So I didn't want to. A lot of guys were bigger than me. I did not want to get in close with them. So I would just go and, you know, I wanted to stay and use the stick as if it was a sword. Because I could move a stick fast as if it was a sword. So why not treat it like that?
Tuhon, can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
No echo?
Okay, Andrew Johnson asked, any major features, methodology, techniques that you had teaching, but ended up doing a major U-turn on? I've more and more as I taught hand versus knife to law enforcement, I've started to get that teaching style more and more into my regular classes, because it's a very efficient way to do things. If you go to my blog, look for Advanced Hand versus Knife Part 2, that explains a little bit of it, and then go to my YouTube channel and look at Hand versus Knife Parts 1, 2, 3, 4. And the YouTube stuff shows the old way I learned it, and the Advanced Hand versus Knife Part 2 on the blog explains more the new way I teach it. And then there are some things in the Obsidian Demano that I changed because of targets on the, yep, that's it. That's the PTI blog. That's a start. The first, blog just scrolls through newest thing first. So Guru Dan Terrell's martial art bio is the first thing you'll see. And just scroll down and you'll find the other stuff. So like what I was saying, when the AIDS epidemic hit, instead of punching in the jaw, I dropped it down to the top of the sternum. Things like that you have to modify, because. Oh, and another thing, in a lot of the knife work, what I teach is, I started off teaching the targets I got when I learned from Leo. Now, a lot of times I'll give alternate non-lethal targets. For instance, instead of going to the heart, go for the deltoid. You hit the nerve of the deltoid. The deltoid will actually take the guy's weapon arm out a lot faster than a stab in the heart. You stab someone in the heart, they still got, according to the U.S. military, I think 14 to 15 seconds worth of oxygen in the brain to keep fighting. They can still keep fighting you. Even if they only got, let's say, 5 seconds of rationality out of that 15 of consciousness, you can stab a guy a lot of times in 5 seconds. But you stab in the deltoid, you will shut down his arm a lot quicker than you would, getting him right in the heart. And you're probably less likely to get the weapon stuck in the body too. So that's another thing I changed. Okay. Questions, more questions, guys. Okay, Jamal asks, is there any deviation or modification, large or small, between PTKs taught by Leo Gahe and the original methodology taught by the Total family? Well, like I said, Leo learned from his grandfather each weapon separately, and you go A through Z in each weapon. Then when he taught us, he kind of gave us all the A's across all the weapons and all the B's, then all the C's. Another question, guys. Try to get something I haven't answered yet. Have you ever tried thinking about training other FMA systems, Dean asked? Yes, the big hole for me, and the thing I'm kind of interested in is plugging holes. The long weapon we have in Tertia is a spear. Leo said his grandfather gave him staff work, but it was just a set in the Abecedario syllabus we're using like a bayonet. And it's almost like, it's called bayonet. I'm guessing it meant a bayonet on a rifle because you're using it kind of like you would use almost like a pugil stick when you're punching back and forth with the ends or stabbing with it, like using a butt strike on a rifle, right? But the thing that's missing, Leo flat out said he did not like his grandfather's staff work. It was too simple. He didn't like it. He liked the other things better. And of course, makes sense. You like a spear better than a staff, right? So for me, what I like to do is I see a lot of people doing kind of like heart height, chin height, somewhere in this middle height staff work. So you see the Portuguese staff fighting. Do you go to Paul like that? There's a type, it's either Tapado or Tapada, I forget, I'm sorry. I get the two confused. That does the same height staff work in the Philippines and Negros. There's several, there's something in, I think called Lubo in Sicily. Same type, it's a shepherd's staff. It's a shepherd's staff that doesn't have the hook on it. That's for pulling the sheep's leg if he gets in trouble, getting him out of something. This is for fighting off wolves or bad guys. So it's a mid-level staff. I'd like to learn it. If I won the lottery and could just travel around, I'd go around to all these schools and have them teach me their staff work. I find that really interesting because I don't have that particular weapon in my experience. Well, and I was talking to, but Leo is starting to teach that once he moved back to the Philippines in 1990. He started to learn that and teach that. I was talking to Mark Denny of Dog Brothers, and he was showing some staff on a video, and I said how much I liked it. And I said, one day what I'd like to do is do a joint seminar of me doing Peter Church's spear and him doing the staff work and just kind of bounce back and forth. I could do an hour of Peter Church. He does an hour of the new staff work. It's Peter Church that Leo's teaching, if it's Leo's teaching, it's Peter Church. And I just had the thought the other day, it'd be really fun would be to do a Zoom class with a whole bunch of teachers at the outdoor environment doing staff work to a big group. So we have as many different styles of staff as you could get on a Zoom panel, and everyone watching this and kind of going from guy to guy, or maybe one guy would do an hour, another guy would do a different hour. But I think that would be fun to me. For me, fun is learning something new. That's why I teach. When I teach and I'm going to convey something really cool to somebody and they get it, I know that feeling. That is really cool to me. So that's what I would like to learn. I would like to learn that mid-level staff work. Other question, guys. When Leo left the States, did you feel ready to take the reins and teach? In 1990, when he left, we didn't know he was leaving. He kept saying he's going to be back soon, back soon, back soon. And I saw him again in 96 at a seminar we did together in Germany. And then 97, late 97, we broke our organizations apart. We had a falling out. I don't want to go into that here. But 94 is when he gave me the rank of Tuhon. So that at that point I actually felt ready. It was kind of from 90, not 90, from 88 on, we used to joke. No, 89. When I got the whole system, we used to joke that, we can't, Leo used to tell me, Billy, you're like the vice president. We can't go on the airplane at the same time. If it crashes, there goes a dirt shot, So I don't know what he said since. I know what he said since then. But I don't know, what was true, what was not. He told me, he taught me the whole system. But I didn't feel like I was really ready to take over until 94 when he made me Tuhon, to answer that question. Paul asks, how are problems presented in the clinch range addressed in the PTI curriculum? The stick grappling portion is the third set of Sagitas. And when you do it empty hand versus empty hand, there is some grappling in there. It's not the same as, it's not, honestly, it's not as well developed as BJJ or judo or something like that. It was the third set of Sagitas was meant as a stick retention system or weapon retention system. You'll see the disarms in there very perfunctory. It's really, I've disarmed a guy and he charges into that gap right after the disarm. How do I keep him from taking my weapon away from me? So, for that use, it works very well. As far as, and there's some things in knife, some things in empty hand versus knife that have grappling in them that are that type of range. But see, to me, clinch is your foreheads rubbing against each other like a boxer, and you're right in here very close. There's striking we have at that range, but as far as like, when I think of clinching, I'm thinking of guys really, like my father was a wrestler in high school. I'm thinking of guys really wrestling and grappling at that kind of, body contact on body contact range. There are some things that presuppose you have a weapon and will give you an empty hand version of that. But honestly, it's not as good as the guys who really focus on empty hand versus empty hand grappling. They specialize it. They really do it well. Somebody asked me if you could open up your own school, what would you have? What would be the best martial arts school? And I said, all the guys who really do well that I give seminars for have at least 3 martial arts towards the school. Usually it's more. So it's Philippine martial arts, usually Tertia, grappling, whether BJJ or different types of mixture grappling systems, FMA grappling systems. Eric, who's the big guy who was under Dan Inosanto? I'm sorry, guys. Can't remember his name. Very, very nice guy. We do seminars at the same schools. But he runs a really good grappling system. Somebody will pick up what I'm talking about. Eric Paulson, thank you. He's very good. There's a bunch of guys out there who do really good grappling. And then a good empty hand striking system. A lot of guys do Muay Thai. And then a lot of guys, like the guys in Germany, Oliver and Ralph in Germany, teach together Muay Thai and French Savate, which honestly I didn't have a lot of respect for until they showed me. They remind me this is meant to have your shoes on, and it's also meant to have hard shoes on. And then they show me something, that's really good stuff. And so they're combining the two, which is really cool. So if you could combine all 3, if I made a perfect martial arts, I would have Tertia for Philippine martial arts. I would have a good grappling system. Eric Paulson seems to be really, really good. I like his stuff. And then I like Ralph and Ollie's combination of Muay Thai and Savate. And a lot of guys in their Muay Thai class will be teaching pure Chai Sarasut style, which guys, for instance, Dan Terrell trains under him. And there's a lot of fine technical details that are really, really, really good. I'm very impressed by what he does. First, he's a lot Muay Thai. I think, okay, it's just hard kicks and elbows. There's a lot more into it than that. It's really sophisticated. All right. Okay, guys. Next question. Dean, can you remember anything we talked about yesterday that the guys might like to hear?
Yes.
Or if we run out of time, should we end it now? Since we're getting a lot of guys leaving and running out of questions.
We pretty much
do a part 2 another day.
I'm looking through everything, and pretty much it's been covered either via you just talking about it or folks bringing up questions on here.
Okay, Jameer asked the question about people misunderstanding knife tapping. That's because we used to do a demo back in the 80s. We'd go public martial art demo. We'd go up, take a piece of paper, cut it with a knife, and then do knife tapping because it's fast and flashy. It's impressive, right? That gets people's attention. But that's not what knife tapping is all about. And go to that empty hand versus knife blog page I referenced. Look at that. Guys, 90% of the questions you're asking here are covered in my blog articles. Go read those. Dean, is this time to break or you have more questions?
I personally don't. There's a couple more. Just Jack just asked a question.
What's my favorite memory of Leo? So after dinner, a lot of times, or after workout, we give each other back massage. He had a really great way to adjust my spine that no well-trained official chiropractor could have done. But so my funny things he would do is, so he would go in and try to learn different techniques, practice different techniques on me. He'd work on my back, right? And they would do this thing. I want to try foot massage. You know, okay, try. He lit me up. I was like, get away from me. And they brought out this little piece of stick with a rounded end. I'm going to use this to dig. No, you're not getting that thing around me. So the next time I think I get my revenge on him. So I'm digging into his back, and I'm like pressing as hard as I could. I'm in my late teens, early 20s. By that, I'm pretty strong. Pressing. Oh, he must be dying in there. I'm pressing as hard as I possibly can. And I hear, he fell asleep. You know, and he's an unusual guy. Okay, Rubio, probably have a question. Okay, 100 untrained farmers defend a village. Teach them to Tersha, how much time you need to make them functional. I would give them half the time. No, I would give them a quarter of the time I have to train with them on spear, because that's what people do in war. Have a shield across their back, and then the rest of the time would be sword by itself techniques, teaching 5 attacks on system, and then take the shield out. And now, because an emergency, you don't have time to get the shield. And the next step would be give them some time using a sword and shield. Okay. Andrew Johnson, what's your opinion where FMA is heading? Where should it be heading? What needs to happen to get there? Okay, martial art is, to me, like a medicine. You're supposed to give people what they need, which may be different from what they want. So I would say, like what I did with the police, I changed the teaching structure to meet the needs of police officers. I would like to see, I would love to do more joint seminars. I set something up with Jared Wahangi to try, before COVID hit, to try to do a joint seminar out in Vegas. We might have it if things quiet down by October, where I would do an hour of the technique I learned. He would do the hour of the technique he learned on each weapon category, and do a weekend like that. I would love it. That to me is a lot of fun. I would like to get a bunch of guys together and, do, Patricia's teacher and Belintawak teacher and a Dosey Parts teacher, teaching side by side. And we're teaching, the morning class is each, say, syllabus stone. Okay, so I'm teaching group A, he's teaching group B, he's teaching group C. After lunch, we come back, and now I'm teaching group C. He's teaching group A, he's teaching group B. I have not a video, article in my blog post called Teaching Through Comparisons. And I really feel human beings learn best, especially as a beginner, when you're comparing things. So I give the beginning of the article, I talk about teaching a computer how to learn the way a baby learns. So they would take pictures of a male human face, female human face, And instead of giving the rules of human males have a heavy brow ridge, deep set eyes, protect the eyes in combat, protruding Adam's apple, facial hair, etc. Females look this. Just flash the computer, male, female, male, female, male, female. And the smarter the computer, the less pictures it has to see in order to actually say whether a picture is a male or female human face. So if we could get a seminar, we have 3 teachers together, and everyone teaches their single stick basics in the first hour, whatever. Then they go to advanced single stick in the second hour. And then they go and trade groups. And they kind of go through it like that. Guru Dan used to do this all the time. You know, he'd have him, he'd have Francis Fang doing Wing Chun, he'd have Master Chai doing Thai boxing, and everyone would rotate through the groups, you know? So everyone would get an experience with each teacher.
Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, that is a really cool and beneficial way for the students to learn things. Peter Church is not perfect. Wing Chun is not perfect. Thai boxing is not perfect. Although I gotta say, Francis has the most perfect Wing Chun I've seen. He's really cool. I like him a lot. That's another guy I really look up to. Is really, really good at what he does, and is able to explain it well. And he shows you why we're doing it this way and not that way. You know, so he's good. I like him. Anyway, what else was I going to say? Because we did a seminar together back in the 90s. I really like teaching with other teachers. If I can do that more, I'd really enjoy doing that a lot. I thought that was the coolest, most fun thing. I learned things, you know, that you know, I had a presupposition about what this martial art. Wow, no, that's because he learned, you know, from a different route. You know, I learned things. I learned how to maybe communicate what I do better. If I don't, you know, I'm not here. I see myself as the caretaker of the technique I learned. I will change things if I need to, but I'm not going to change things just off the handle. So I really like that teaching format. Okay, I see Mr. G has a question. I have 3 daughters. So I'm trying to abduct, and they have a 4-inch knife in the person. What do you think they stab us left on the abductor's body to get away? When I teach women's self-defense courses with a knife, I say go for the thigh and eye. They're trying to grab you, stab in the quadricep, you know, and if you can get away, then good. If you can't, stab in the eye. If you don't get the eye, get anywhere in the face, that's going to freak the guy out, and they're going to, you know, they'll probably let go of the reason wrist grabs are taught in martial arts to men is because a guy is trying to prevent you grabbing your weapon. However, it's good to teach counters wrist grabs to women because that is one of the most common kidnapping techniques to initiate the kidnapping. Is they grab the wrist because what they're afraid of is a woman clawing the eyes. They're not getting worried about kicking the shin or even in the balls because they can turn around. What they're worried about is getting clawed in the eyes. So if she has one hand free and can get that pocket knife open and stab him in the quad, you know, and that should loosen his concentration over his grip. And if he can't get away, then stab him in the eye or towards the eye. He gets hit in the face, doesn't even have to hit the eye. He will lose concentration on that, you know, grip, and she can get away. Kind of like Batman getting Green Lantern's ring off him, you know? You're not concentrating. How many people got that analogy? Got that reference. All right, so on my blog post, you will see a weapon on women's self-defense knives. And the story where my wife saved herself from a kidnapping, probably rape and murder, with a pocket knife. And so all she had to do was display it and have the right attitude. Also look in my blog post for controlled human aggression, 2 parts on that. And you're going to see the psychology of that. Okay, next question, guys. Okay. Oh, so the group called Kali Evolution is doing things like that, of the 3 teachers teaching. Guys, Kali Evolution, if you hear me, I'd love to be part of that. I have a lot of fun. Okay, Jameer's been asking a lot of good questions. Instructing females is the biggest opinion hurdle to overcome, mentally and psychologically. Women are Male and female brains are genetically different, guys. They're functionally different. It's the science. I know it's not politically correct to say it, but that's just the facts. Women are meant to be nurturing. They're meant to take care of the young. Look at Jordan Peterson's stuff. Has a lot of good stuff on the net that you can get the science behind it. But what I've been successful in women is not getting them to defend themselves, but getting them to mentally have a picture of the people they love behind them. They're protecting their kids, their parents, whatever. If there's something they are nurturing and that's behind them that they're protecting, if that guy kills you, he's taking you away from those people who love you. Then the mama bear comes out. That's especially if they have kids, all bets are off. That I have a lot less trouble teaching a woman to defend herself with a weapon if she has kids. Then it's that okay, you're here by yourself, your kid's not with you, but are they going to take you away from your kids? Your kids going to no mom? Boom. Very different attitude. Much easier to teach a woman if she has kids. And then on that bell curve of empathy to I think it's technically narcissism, but let's say empathy to aggression. Be able to pull the trigger if you have to. Women are more towards the empathic side. Men are more towards the be aggressive when needed side, because that's what we're built to do. We're built to go out and hunt, kill animal, bring food home, meat home for the tribe, right? So I would say if teaching women, teach them to have whoever they love, whoever they feel protective of, as behind him, and you're preventing that person, the bad guy, from taking you away from them, away from the people you love. And if you have a weapon like even a pencil, going for the thigh and eye, especially the thigh first, if you can hit him, if you get over that resistance of hitting something, once you get over that, you've crossed a threshold that gets them to defend themselves. A lot of when Billy Blanks was doing the Taibo boxing in the air, a lot of people martial arts instructors had tried to do that in their classes, and then and had nice class, everyone had a good time. As soon as they tried to get them into punching focus mitts, not hitting a bag or hitting sparring, just punching focus mitts, half the women class quit. They didn't want to hit anything. They just wanted to have fun. Okay, so, all right, question. Andrew Johnson, you're asking me, are you an engineer? Delivering a training input based on reverse engineering one or more real-life cases viable? Answer the question in English and non-engineer English, and I'll try to answer that. Brian Rodriguez, the nose as well. Hitting the nose. Mike Popolicio, one of our Tuhons, has a very good program. He goes, when he trains, I think this started in his jiu-jitsu class. He was in 25 years Japanese jiu-jitsu before he came to me. He teaches kids classes, everything is punching the nose. Punch the nose, elbow the nose, back fist the nose, headbutt the nose, kick the nose. Everything is just hitting the nose for the kids' classes. And when you get the adult classes, and the jiu-jitsu, I believe it was, all that transferred to hitting the eye. Everything was going for the eyes. And the idea in his jiu-jitsu classes, what he learned from his Japanese teacher was, you're learning all the locks so people cannot lock you. Your goal is turn the head out of the way so you can get a rear choke on the guy. The way you get the rear choke on the guy in a real fight is poke him in the eye, turn his head, and then you get the rear choke on. So it's all adult classes, all the empty hand, the jab, all the punches, all the techniques that got you to the goal of getting that rear choke on the guy was after the eyes, after the eyes, after the eyes. And you don't have to hit the eye hard to get someone's attention and turn his head away from that pain. You see the idea? So if you have a women's class where it's legal to do so, and you can give them a weapon like a knife, and they're willing to carry it, etc., 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 I would say thigh and eye and go for wrist releases if you can, especially two-hand release, because then you can't get to the pocket knife or the pen in your pocket. I've taught school teachers pens and pencils in the pocket, and that's their weapon because they can't carry anything else. What else? Oh, Carl Stark. Stark says winter is coming. What do you think of you two people about showing people how to kill someone with a knife? I really, really hate it. I really don't like people showing what I call capture and kill techniques. Like sentry removal, or this is how you defeat empty hand versus knife technique. I mean, I even engaged in a little bit of that in the beginning when I first got on YouTube of showing, this is why karate techniques, classic karate techniques are not a good idea. Empty hand versus knife technique, because I could do this. I took that video off. I don't want to give people bad guys ideas. And you'll see in my blog where I say, please don't post knife videos on the internet. When you see me doing knife stuff, it's with big knives, fighting another big knife, because that's a different animal. That's knife dueling. You don't need to learn techniques off of YouTube to be able to dangerous with a big knife against someone in empty hands. And it's really a lot of footwork and distancing of, if you got two big guy with a big knife, two big guys showing dueling, I'm using that kind of as a platform to show footwork and distancing, understanding of footwork and distancing. It's a tool, it's not an end product in itself. What was the most challenging part of the research system for you? Espada dagger. And the espada dagger, because you have a long weapon in your right hand, a short weapon doing it totally different rhythms in your left hand. I say it's like playing classical music with your right hand on piano and playing jazz with your left hand on a different musical instrument. But they call it the highest part of the art because it's the most difficult, but I think it reaps the most benefits for your brain.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, guys? I'm going to leave you with a story, and then I think we should end. It's getting late, right, Dean?
Yeah, no, sure. What's your story?
All right, so when Leo was a little kid, he would tell this story called the thought-provoking process. I told you this last night. So he would go to his grandfather and say, yeah, grandfather, what is this? I still can't get that. That. Leo, I forget what you call that. What does it do? And that might help me. Oh, you can spread butter, put butter on bread with this. Oh, butter on bread, very, very good. I still can't get it. Ask Grandma. Go ask Grandma. That's the name of that's how the blog post is titled. Go ask Grandma. Leo's stories. Go ask Grandma. So he would go to Grandma. Grandma, what is this? Oh, well, what is it? I can't remember. What does it do? You can butter bread with this. Oh, that's good. Yes, you can. What else can it do? We can cut rope with it. Oh, you can butter bread. You can cut rope. I almost have it. Go ask First Uncle. First Uncle, what is this called? What does it do? You can butter bread. You can cut rope. What else can it do? I almost have it. You can drill holes in wood. And then depending on Leo's age and how frustrated they want them to be, he'd go around to the uncles and aunts. And finally we get to one. And he, would tell a list of everything he'd learned. Oh, you know what, smart boy, you helped me. Now I remember what it is. This is called a pocket knife. Oh, a pocket knife, yay. Now Leo's so ecstatic. Okay, now Leo, I want you to go back and tell all the people that helped you what the name of this is, and repeat to them what it does, because not everyone heard it. So they go back down the line. Oh, this is a pocket knife. It does this and this and this and this and this and this, right? And Leo said the reason they would teach him that way is they didn't want him to give them the information on a silver platter. They wanted him to, because they'll forget it. So if you have to struggle for it, if you have to analyze the problem, what does this do? It does this, 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 right? Then you really understand what this is. If I just tell you what's a pocket knife, it's a pocket knife. You don't appreciate the information, and you don't get to learn everything you need to know about a pocket knife. So He called that the thought-provoking process. It's a very Socratic method of learning. Socrates is supposed to teach by asking questions. So I don't know if he asked exactly, what does it do? But that's the concept. And I saw that on us when we got the first Encegitas. He gave us all 12 in the first class, in that 4 to 6 hour class. And then he would not show us, he would not review us or correct us for literally 6 months. I think that was probably the longest he ever let us hang on any body of technique. But he said, "You figure it out. You analyze. You figure it out. Figure it out." And I don't think he told me about the story about the thought-provoking process until we moved to Texas a few years after that. So I didn't expect anything. I was like, okay, every week, okay, he's probably gonna show us now. Show us now. Okay, go figure it out, guys. No, you keep working. You keep working. And I would remember 3 or 4 techniques well. Tom would remember another 3 or 4. Larry would know another 3 or 4. Jim was a different 3 or 4. And we're working back and forth. And I think it was like this, and I think it was like that. And it wasn't just remembering it rote. You had to remember. You had to really analyze. Okay, why is it done this way? What is doing it this way do for you that doing it another way doesn't do for you? And it was really, after 6 months, finally he said, "Okay, guys, let me see." I said, you got that one right. Oh, this one needs to adjust this way. That one, oh, you got totally screwed that up. This is how it's supposed to be. I went through it like that. But it was a really good learning process for us. It taught us to learn how to learn. That is the big secret of higher education, of the classical liberal arts education. Classically in Europe, tradesmen went through an apprenticeship program. You learn to be a blacksmith from a blacksmith. You learn how to be a winemaker from a winemaker, whatever, right? But the rich people did not go to a school for being a prince or a magistrate, or how to run a town or how to run a country. They went through the liberal arts, logic, mathematics. Um, they had music in there, which actually we find in the brain is very tied to the math part of the brain, math and music. Languages. She would learn all these things, the classic 7 liberal arts. They're kind of screwed up at the colleges now, but classically it was really to teach you the skill of learning new things. And once you have this broad base, I mean, logic obviously is good for everything. Uh, Rhetoric is how to argue, not just who has the loudest voice, but how to make a cohesive argument, how to argue from facts and logic to win the other person and convince them that your position is correct, not just win them by beating them over the head with a stick. So that is what the thought-provoking process is about, is how to learn, the technique of learning. So I think that's where we should end. Can you hear me, Dean? I can't hear you. The students can hear me. All right, guys, can you hear Dean? They say they can hear me, but okay, guys. I think we'll cut it here. If Dean wants to do a part 2, we'll do a part 2. Oh, what's the biggest misconception? Who you should ask that, Jameer? Your question on the biggest misconception of non-Filipino martial arts practitioners? I would ask the senior Filipino guys that question. Okay. Okay, they're telling me, Jack Latour is telling me he can hear me, but not you, Dean. Dean, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Why don't we just end it here? Good night, guys. Good questions. Thank you.
All right, folks. Can anybody hear me now? Just a quick check. I had to leave and come back in. This audio tonight, I have no idea. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. No? Yes, okay. All right, thank you, James. Yeah, this is gonna be in 2 parts, so download them YouTube, put them out. Apologies. No idea what occurred. I can't even remotely don't even know where to begin the troubleshoot. But anyway, yes, Julius, we should definitely do definitely do another test run. And those of you guys are still watching, Sunday, Alvin Aguilar is coming on. He currently lives in the Philippines. He runs a really fantastic grappling program over there in conjunction. I was doing FMA. So he'll be coming on this Sunday night. And then next Tuesday, episode 100, where Julius will be interviewing me. So that I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it was incredible, great damage control, Tuhon Jack. I just don't get it. I don't know what. I was on a really good run there for a while with no tech issues. Go figure. But obviously, Tuhon Bill was extraordinary. So, but yeah, it's fair to say he'll be back on. So, yeah, but those of you who watch, I appreciate it. And yes, Sunday night, episode 99, Alvin Aguilar. Hopefully, I'll see some of you guys then. All right, take care.